Mom's new husband is my real dad now, my daughter said at my own table. So I stood up and took back everything I'd once given. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and write in the comments, where are you listening from? I stood up from that table so slowly, I could feel every pair of eyes on me. My daughter's voice was still echoing in my head. Mom's new husband is my real dad now. 8 words. That's all it took to erase 23 years of scraped knees, bedtime stories, college tuition payments, and walking her down the aisle. 8 words, spoken at my own dining room table. Well, technically, my ex-wife's dining room table now. The one I'd bought 12 years ago at that furniture store in Portland. I'd carried it up 3 flights of stairs myself because the delivery fee was $200 and I was saving for Emma's orthodontics. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just stood there, napkin still in my hand, watching my daughter's face. She wouldn't look at me. 17 years old, and she suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. Across from her, my ex-wife Rebecca was wearing that expression I'd seen 1,000 times during the divorce, that practiced sympathy mixed with something else. Relief, maybe, or vindication. Her new husband, Derek, had his arm around the back of Emma's chair. Proprietary, comfortable, like he'd been there all along. David? Rebecca started, her voice soft. Maybe we should talk about this privately. Actually, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. I don't think there's anything to talk about. I folded the napkin, set it down next to the plate of food I'd barely touched. Roasted chicken with herbs I didn't recognize. Farm to table, Derek had announced when we sat down. From a local organic supplier I know. Not the simple roasted chicken with rosemary I used to make every Sunday. The one Emma used to say was her favorite. But maybe that was a different Emma. Maybe. That girl had been replaced by this stranger who called another man Dad. I need to go, I said. Emma's head snapped up then. You're leaving? Seriously? You just told me I'm not your father. I kept my voice level. Calm. So I don't think I belong at this dinner anymore. That's not what I meant, she said, but her voice was defensive. Angry, even. God, you're so dramatic. I just meant that Derek is here now, and he's what? I waited. The silence stretched. He's what, Emma? She looked at Derek. He gave her shoulder a little squeeze. Encouraging. My stomach turned. He's present, she finally said. He's here. You're always working, always busy. Derek takes me shopping. He helps with my college applications. He actually shows up. I nodded slowly. $48,000 in tuition for her private high school. $62,000 for the first 3 years of college, before she transferred. $32,000 for the wedding 2 years ago to a man she divorced 8 months later. I'd worked 60-hour weeks as a structural engineer for 15 years to make sure she never had to worry about money, never had to work through school like I did, never had to choose between textbooks and groceries. But Derek took her shopping. I see, I said. Well, I hope you're all very happy. I walked to the coat closet. My hands were steady as I pulled on my jacket. Behind me, I could hear Rebecca saying something in a low voice. Derek responding. Emma silent now. The front door was 10 feet away. I'd installed that door myself 7 years ago. Solid oak, cost me $800 and a weekend of work. I'd been proud of it. I opened it, stepped out into the November evening. The cold hit my face like a wake-up call. David, wait. Rebecca was in the doorway. Please, let's not do this. Do what? I turned back. I'm just leaving. Like you wanted. I never wanted this, she said. But her eyes shifted. We both knew that was a lie. Emma needs stability, she continued. Derek provides that. He's there every day. You have to understand, she's at an age where she needs a father? I finished. She had one. She just fired him. Rebecca flinched. Don't be cruel. I'm not being cruel. I'm being factual. I looked past her into the warm light of the house. My house once. I could see the corner of the living room, where I'd built floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Emma used to sit there for hours, reading. I'd find her curled up on the window seat I'd installed, completely absorbed in whatever story she'd discovered. Take care, Rebecca. I walked to my truck. A 2015 Ford F-150. Nothing fancy. Reliable. Good for hauling materials when I did side jobs on weekends. The jobs I did to pay for Emma's spring break trip to Europe last year. $3,000, so she could see Paris and Rome with her friends. She'd sent me one postcard. Having a great time, it said. Thanks, Dad. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment before starting the engine. My phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out, looked at it. Then I smiled. Just a little. And I made one call. Marcus, it's David. I need to ask you something. Marcus Harrison had been my lawyer during the divorce. Smart, thorough, expensive, but worth every penny. I'm listening, he said. The house, I said. The settlement. Walk me through who owns what. There was a pause. You thinking what I think you're thinking? Just refresh my memory. He did, and as he talked, I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger exactly. Something colder, clearer. One more thing, I said when he finished. The college fund, the one in Emma's name. Who has control over distributions? You do, Marcus said. Until she's 25, you're the trustee. Why? Just checking. I thanked him and hung up. I sat there in the dark truck, looking at that oak door, the light behind it, the family inside that wasn't mine anymore. And I started thinking, really thinking, about the last 5 years since the divorce, about every weekend Emma canceled, every time she had plans with Derek instead, every short phone call, every forgotten birthday of mine, while I never missed one of hers. I thought about the conversation I'd overheard 2 months ago when I stopped by unexpectedly. I'd been about to knock when I heard voices through the kitchen window. It was cracked open. November had been warm that year, too. He's just so boring, Emma had been saying. Like, Derek teaches me about wine and art. Dad talks about load-bearing walls. Rebecca's laugh. Your father means well. He just doesn't understand that there's more to life than work. I know. But like, when Derek took me to that gallery opening, that was culture. That was sophistication. Dad would have been so uncomfortable there. Different worlds, Rebecca had agreed. Derek comes from a world where people appreciate the finer things. I hadn't knocked that day. I'd gotten back, in my truck, and driven away. And I'd started to wonder when exactly my daughter had become someone who valued gallery openings over the man who'd taught her to ride a bike. Who'd stayed up all night with her when she had pneumonia at age 6? Who'd driven 8 hours in a snowstorm to bring her home from college when her appendix burst? Different worlds. Maybe Rebecca was right. I started the engine, drove home to my apartment. A small 2-bedroom place I'd rented after the divorce. $1,500 a month. Basic, clean, functional. I'd given Rebecca the house in the settlement because Emma was still in high school then, and I wanted her to have stability. That's what the judge had appreciated. My willingness to sacrifice for my daughter's well-being. The apartment was dark when I got home. I flipped on the lights, looked around at the space I'd lived in for 5 years. It had never felt like home, just a place to sleep between shifts. Between Emma's occasional visits that became less occasional every month, between my old life and whatever this was, I poured myself a bourbon, Maker's Mark, $28 a bottle. I allowed myself one drink a week. Friday nights usually. But this felt like a special occasion, the death of something, a relationship, an identity. Who was I if I wasn't Emma's father? I sat down at my small kitchen table, opened my laptop, started looking through files, financial records I'd kept meticulously because that's what engineers do. We document, we measure, we prove. 5 years of Emma's expenses post-divorce. I'd kept paying even though the settlement only required child support until she turned 18. That had ended 3 years ago. Everything since then had been voluntary, because she was my daughter, because I loved her. Car insurance, $12,000 total. Car payments on the Honda Civic I'd co-signed for, $18,000. Spending money, clothes, phone bill, conservative estimate, $36,000. College expenses beyond loans and scholarships, $62,000. The wedding and subsequent divorce lawyer, $41,000. Medical and dental not covered by insurance, $8,000. Miscellaneous emergencies, trips, special requests, $23,000. Total, $200,000 over 5 years. $40,000 a year. I'd earned a good salary. $90,000 a year as a senior structural engineer. After taxes, insurance, and retirement contributions, I took home about $58,000. After rent, utilities, and basic living expenses, I had about $25,000 a year for savings and extras. I'd given Emma nearly every extra dollar I had. I drove a truck that was 9 years old. I hadn't taken a vacation in 6 years. I bought my clothes at Target. My furniture was from IKEA and estate sales. I made my coffee at home and brought lunch to work in a cooler. And Emma thought I wasn't present. I closed the laptop, finished the bourbon, sat in the silence of my apartment, and felt something break apart inside me. Not dramatically, not with anger or tears, just a quiet crumbling, like a structure finally giving way after years of stress. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. "We need to talk. Emma is upset." I stared at it, typed back, "Tell Emma she knows where to find me if she wants to talk." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "You embarrassed her." I laughed. Actually laughed. Embarrassed her. I'd embarrassed her by leaving after she publicly disowned me. The audacity of it. I set the phone down. Didn't respond. Went to bed instead. Lay there in the dark and thought about my father. He'd been a carpenter. Died when I was 25. Lung cancer from years of sawdust and cigarettes. At his funeral, I'd stood up and talked about his hands, how they were always working, building, fixing, creating, how he'd taught me that a man's worth was in what he built, what he provided, what he left behind. I'd built a whole life for Emma, and she'd handed it to someone else. The next morning was Saturday. I woke up at 6 like always, made coffee, scrambled eggs, toast, sat at my kitchen table and made a list. Engineers love lists. They bring order to chaos, control to uncertainty. Item 1. Review all financial agreements and legal documents related to Emma. Item 2. Consult with Marcus about modifications to the college fund trust. Item 3. Review the property settlement from the divorce. Item 4. Make decisions about ongoing voluntary support. I wasn't angry as I wrote. I was methodical, calm. This was problem solving. When a structure shows failure, you don't get emotional. You assess. You calculate. You make adjustments based on load-bearing capacity and stress points. My relationship with Emma had failed. Time to assess the damage and adjust the structure. I spent the weekend doing research, reading legal documents, making calls to Marcus's voicemail. By Sunday evening, I had a plan, not revenge. Engineers don't do revenge. We do consequences. We do natural results of applied force. Monday morning, I called Marcus. I need to make some changes, I said. I'm listening. The college fund. Emma's got 1 semester left. What are my options? You're the trustee, Marcus said carefully. You can approve or deny distributions for educational expenses, living expenses, and other items deemed appropriate until she's 25. After that, she gets full control of whatever's left. How much is in there? Papers rustling. Current balance is $68,000, more than I thought. I'd been contributing $500 a month since the divorce, even when money was tight, even when it meant I couldn't fix my truck's transmission for 6 months and had to drive it carefully in 3rd gear. What happens if I suspend distributions? The money stays in the account, continues to grow. She can't access it until 25, and she can't override your trustee decisions until then either. But David, if you're doing this out of anger, I'm doing this out of clarity, I said. My daughter told me I'm not her father, replaced me with another man. I don't think I should be funding the lifestyle of someone who isn't my daughter anymore. Do you? Silence. Then, when do you want this effective? Immediately. Done. I'll have the papers ready by tomorrow. One more thing, I said. The house, the property settlement. I need you to explain something to me. We talked for 45 minutes. When I hung up, I was smiling, really smiling, because sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. Sometimes the things you give away freely can come back to haunt the people who didn't appreciate them. That afternoon, my phone rang. Emma, Dad, my tuition payment got rejected. The school says there's a problem with the trust fund. Hello, Emma, I said. How are you? What? I'm fine. Did you hear what I said? The payment got rejected. I heard. Well, what's going on? I suspended distributions from the trust fund. Silence. Then, you what? I suspended distributions. The money is still there. You'll get it when you're 25. But I'm no longer approving payments. You can't do that. I have 1 semester left. I can, actually. I'm the trustee. But that's insane. Why would you do this? I let the question hang for a moment. You told me Derek is your real father now. Oh my God, are you serious? You're doing this because of that? I'm doing this because I've spent 5 years and $200,000 supporting someone who doesn't consider me her father. That seems inefficient. Derek is your real dad now, so Derek can pay for your final semester. It was just something I said. I didn't mean it like, how did you mean it, Emma? Another silence. Mom said you were going to pull something like this. Did she? She said you'd get vindictive, that you can't handle not being the center of attention anymore. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The center of attention. Right. Is that what I was when I worked 60 hours a week to pay for your school? When I gave your mother the house so you'd have stability? When I skipped vacations and meals out and new clothes so you could have everything you wanted? That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. It's not fair that I sacrificed everything to give you a good life, and you handed your affection to a man who's known you for 3 years. It's not fair that I'm the boring dad who talks about load-bearing walls while Derek is sophisticated because he takes you to gallery openings. It's not fair that you're 17 years old, and you can't see past your own privilege long enough to appreciate what you had. Fluck you, she said, voice shaking. You're an asshole. Maybe, I said, but I'm an asshole who just saved himself a lot of money. Have Derek pay for school. Have Derek pay for your car insurance. Have Derek be your father. I'm done. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I let it go to voicemail. It rang 6 more times over the next hour. Voicemails from Emma, Rebecca, even one from Derek, telling me we needed to have a man-to-man conversation about maturity. I deleted them all. That evening, I made dinner. Simple pasta with marinara sauce. 23 minutes from start to finish. I ate it at my small table, reading a book about architecture in post-war Japan. It was quiet, peaceful, no drama, no demands, no disappointment. My phone buzzed with texts. I ignored them. At 9 o'clock, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. Rebecca. I opened the door. This is a surprise. We need to talk. She pushed past me into the apartment, looked around with barely concealed distaste. God, David, is this really how you live? It suits me. It's depressing. She turned to face me. You need to restore Emma's trust fund. She's in a panic. She can't afford tuition without it. Then Derek can pay. Derek and I are planning a wedding. We don't have $20,000 lying around for tuition. Planning a wedding. Congratulations. When? June. But that's not the point. The point is that you're planning a wedding that probably costs $30,000 or $40,000, but you don't have $20,000 for Emma's education. Interesting priorities. Rebecca's face flushed. Our wedding is none of your business, and Emma's education is none of mine. Not anymore. She made that clear. She's a child. She said something stupid. You're the adult. Act like it. She's 22 years old, I said quietly. She's not a child. She's an adult who made a choice. She chose Derek. That's fine. But choices have consequences. You're being petty. No, I'm being done. There's a difference. I walked to the door, opened it. You should go, David. Rebecca, I gave you everything in the door. Divorce. The house. The furniture. The savings account. I paid child support even after Emma turned 18. I've been a walking ATM for 5 years, and it's not enough. It's never enough. Emma wants sophistication, culture. Fine. Let her sophisticated stepfather provide it. The house isn't. Rebecca stopped, swallowed. Isn't what? Nothing. But I saw something flicker in her eyes. Worry. The house isn't what, Rebecca? It's expensive to maintain. The property taxes have gone up. The mortgage. What mortgage? I said slowly. The house was paid off. Her face changed. Derek wanted to do some renovations. We took out a home equity loan. It's not a big deal. How much? That's private. How much, Rebecca? $250,000. I felt like I'd been punched. You took out a $250,000 loan on a house I gave you? It's my house now. The settlement said you could live there until Emma turned 25 or you remarried. Then it reverts to joint ownership, and we sell it, splitting the proceeds. That's not. She stopped. Her face went pale. You didn't read the fine print, I said. Did you? Marcus said. Marcus said you could live there. He didn't say you could take out loans against it. Not without my consent, which you didn't get. It's been 5 years, I assumed. You assumed wrong. I felt that cold clarity again, that engineering precision. You took out $250,000 against a property you don't fully own. And now you're on the hook for payments, and Derek's planning an expensive wedding, and Emma needs tuition money. And you came here to pressure me into fixing it. You're enjoying this, Rebecca said. You're enjoying watching us struggle. No, I said honestly. I'm not enjoying anything. I'm just done being the solution to problems you created. She left, slammed the door hard enough that my neighbor's cat yowled. I stood in the sudden silence, and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just that vast, empty calm. I slept well that night. The next week was chaos. I mostly ignored. Texts from Emma, emails from Rebecca, 2 more calls from Derek suggesting we meet to work this out like reasonable men. I blocked Derek's number, set Emma and Rebecca to silent notifications. I went to work. I did my job. I came home. I read books. I cooked simple meals. I went for long walks in the evening, watching the November light fade early, the air getting colder. Thanksgiving was coming. I had nowhere to go and no one expecting me. It felt like freedom. On Wednesday, Marcus called. You've stirred up a hornet's nest. So, I've noticed. Rebecca's lawyer called me. They want to negotiate. About what? The house. They're in trouble with the loan. Derek apparently has expensive taste in renovations. They're worried about making payments. Not my problem. Technically, it is. If they default, the bank comes after the property. Since you're a co-owner, that affects your credit and financial standing too. I thought about that. What are they proposing? They want you to either buy out their interest or agree to refinance in Rebecca's name only. How much is the house worth now? Current market? About $700,000. They owe $250 on the equity loan. So there's $450 in equity. Half of that is yours. $225. Tell them I'll buy out their interest, I said, for $100,000. David, that's $100,000. They get enough to pay off a chunk of the loan and start over somewhere cheaper. I get the house. They have 48 hours to decide. They'll never agree to that. Then they can keep making payments on a loan they can't afford, or default and lose everything. Their choice. Marcus was quiet. Then, you've changed. No, I said. I've just stopped accepting less than I deserve. 2 days later, Rebecca called. We'll take the deal. Smart choice. I hate you, she said. You're destroying our lives. No. You destroyed your life when you took out a loan you couldn't afford on a house you didn't own. I'm just refusing to fix it. Emma won't forgive you for this. She already told me I'm not her father. What's there to forgive? Rebecca hung up. Marcus drew up the papers. By the end of the following week, I owned my old house outright. Well, mostly. I had to take out a small mortgage to buy their interest, but the payments were manageable. And I'd be living in a house worth $700,000, with $400,000 in equity. I moved in on a Saturday. The place was a mess. Derek's renovations had been half finished. The kitchen was torn apart. The master bathroom was gutted. There were paint samples on every wall. It looked like a construction site. Perfect. I knew how to fix construction sites. I spent the next 3 weeks working, evenings and weekends. I finished the kitchen myself, installed new cabinets, tile backsplash, fixed the bathroom, repainted every room. It was exhausting. It was exactly what I needed. On December 23rd, I was spackling the last wall in the living room when someone knocked. I opened the door. Emma stood there. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She'd lost weight. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She walked past me, looking around at the house. "You finished the renovations. Most of them. It looks good." Her voice was small. "Better than what Derek was doing." Derek didn't know what he was doing. I set down the spackle. "Why are you here, Emma?" "Mom and Derek broke up." I felt nothing. "I'm sorry to hear that." "No, you're not. You're right. I'm not. But it's polite to say." She flinched. "The wedding is off. Mom moved in with her sister. Derek moved back to Seattle. Everything fell apart. And? And I dropped out of SEND school. That got my attention." "What?" "I couldn't afford the last semester. So I withdrew. I'm working at a coffee shop now. Trying to save money." She looked at me. Really looked at me. "You were right. About all of it. Was I?" "Derek wasn't. He wasn't what I thought. After you stopped paying for things, he changed. Got distant. Started complaining about money. About Mom's spending. About me being entitled." She laughed bitterly. "He called me entitled. The guy who spent $40,000 on a kitchen renovation. Ironic. I was horrible to you." Her voice cracked. "I said terrible things. And you were just there. Always there. And I didn't see it." I nodded slowly. "No, you didn't. I'm sorry." Tears now. Real ones. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I lost. What I threw away." I looked at my daughter, 22 years old, and learning what most people don't learn until much later. That words have weight. That choices have costs. That sophistication means nothing without substance. "Are you hungry?" I asked. She blinked. "What? Are you hungry?" I was about to make dinner. Roasted chicken with rosemary. The way I used to make it. Fresh tears. That was always my favorite. I know. We ate together at the kitchen table, the one I'd carried up 3 flights of stairs 12 years ago. Emma told me about the coffee shop, about her plans to save money and go back to school in the fall, about how Rebecca was dating again, someone from her yoga class, about how she'd been seeing a therapist who'd helped her understand some things about herself, about gratitude, about taking people for granted. I listened. I didn't lecture. I didn't say I told you so. I just listened. When she left that night, she hugged me. Tight. "Thank you for dinner." "You're welcome. Can I come back?" "For dinner again sometime." I looked at her, at the hope and fear in her eyes, at the young woman who was finally learning what it meant to lose something irreplaceable. "Yes," I said, "you can come back." She smiled, relieved, grateful. She left. I closed the door, went back inside, sat in my living room, in the house I'd built and lost and reclaimed, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not revenge. Not victory. Just peace. The kind that comes from standing your ground, from knowing your worth, from understanding that love without respect is just performance. Emma came back the next week, and the week after that. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt. Not the old relationship. That was gone. Something new. Something based on honesty instead of obligation. On mutual respect instead of assumed devotion. She asked me once, about 3 months later, why I'd forgiven her. We were working together in the garden. I was teaching her how to prune roses. Her hands were dirty, hair in her eyes, no makeup, just Emma, real Emma. I didn't forgive you because you apologized, I said. Then why? Because you changed. Apologies are words. Change is proof. She nodded, kept working. Then, quietly, I'm going back to school in the fall. I saved enough for 1 semester. I'm going to take out loans for the rest. Good. I don't expect you to help. I know. I finished with the rose bush I was working on. Stood up. But I'm going to anyway. Not all of it. You need skin in the game. But I'll match whatever you save. Dollar for dollar. She looked up at me. Why? Because you're my daughter. That didn't change. What changed is that now you know what that means. What it costs. What it's worth. She cried. Right there in the garden. I let her. Sometimes you need to cry about what you almost destroyed. Later that summer, we were having dinner. Just the two of us. She asked about Rebecca. Do you hate her? No, I said. And I meant it. I hate what she taught you. I hate that she valued money and status over character. But I don't hate her. She gave me you. Eventually, Emma smiled. That's very evolved of you. I'm an engineer. We deal in structure, not emotion. Hate is exhausting. It takes energy better spent elsewhere. Where do you spend your energy now? I gestured around the house. At the renovated kitchen, the finished bathroom, the garden outside. Here, building. It's what I do. Not just the house, she said. No, not just the house. We sat there in comfortable silence. Father and daughter. Not perfect. Not uncomplicated, but real. Earned. Built from ruins. The phone rang. I looked at the screen. Marcus, I need to take this, I said. Stepped into the other room. David, Marcus said. I have news. About Rebecca. I'm listening. The house she's renting. She's 6 months behind on rent. Her landlord is filing for eviction. I closed my eyes. Why are you telling me this? Because she listed you as an emergency contact. The landlord called me first. Thought I was still your divorce lawyer. I'm not her safety net anymore. I know. I told him that. But David, she's got nowhere to go. Her sister kicked her out. She's been living off credit cards. She's drowning. I thought about Rebecca, the woman I'd loved once, the woman who'd taught our daughter to value the wrong things, the woman who'd gambled on Derek and lost. What do you want me to do, Marcus? That's up to you. I just thought you should know. I hung up, went back to the dining room. Emma looked at me. Everything okay? Your mother is about to be evicted. Emma's face fell. Oh, God. Did you know? She mentioned money was tight. I didn't know it was that bad. She looked at me. Are you going to help her? What do you think I should do? Emma thought about that. Really thought. I think you should do what feels right to you. Not what I want. Not what she needs. What you think is right. I smiled. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Eventually. The next day, I called Rebecca. She answered on the first ring. David. Her voice was wary. I heard about the eviction. Silence. Then, I suppose you're calling to gloat. No, I'm calling to offer a solution. What kind of solution? I need someone to manage some rental properties I'm buying. 3 small houses. Fixer-uppers. I'll renovate them. You'll handle the leasing, maintenance calls, tenant relations. I'll pay you $36,000 a year, plus you can live in one of the properties rent-free. More silence. Why would you do this? Because Emma needs her mother, and because spite is exhausting, and because you're good at managing things when you're not trying to impress people. I don't deserve this. No, I agreed. You don't, but Emma does. She deserves to have both her parents in her life, so this isn't for you, it's for her. Rebecca started to cry. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just do the job. And Rebecca, no more loans you can't afford. No more trying to buy happiness. Just Live within your means. Be honest. Be present. Be enough. Okay, she whispered. Okay. I hung up. Emma asked me about it later. You gave Mom a job? Yes. Why? Because forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. Carrying anger is like carrying weight. Eventually, you want to put it down. I looked at my daughter. I'm tired of carrying weight that isn't mine. She hugged me. I love you, Dad. I love you too. And I meant it. Not the desperate love of a father clinging to a child who didn't value him, but the steady love of a man who knew his worth, who'd walked away, who'd rebuilt, who'd forgiven not because they deserved it, but because he deserved peace. That Christmas, Emma and I had dinner together, just us. Roasted chicken with rosemary, mashed potatoes, green beans, simple food, good food, the kind of meal that says, home. This is perfect, Emma said. It's just chicken. No. She looked around the kitchen. At the house we were sitting in. At the table we'd shared 1,000 meals at. It's more than that. It's you. It's us. It's everything I almost lost. I reached across the table, took her hand. You didn't lose it. You gave it away. But then you came back for it. That's what matters. Will you tell me something? She asked. Maybe. That night at dinner, when I said Derek was my real dad, you stood up so calmly, like you'd been expecting it. Were you? I thought about that. Not expecting, but not surprised. I'd watched you slipping away for years, watched you choose his world over mine. That night was just when you said it out loud. But you didn't fight. You just left. I did fight, I said. Just not the way you expected. I fought by walking away. By refusing to accept less than I deserved. By showing you what it looks like when a man values himself. I get it now, she said. What you were teaching me. What was I teaching you? That love isn't about sacrifice. It's about mutual respect. And that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone experience the consequences of their choices. I smiled. Exactly. We finished dinner, washed dishes together. She told me about her classes, about a boy she was seeing who was kind and thoughtful, about her plans for the future, and I listened, really listened, not out of obligation, not out of fear of losing her, but because I wanted to, because she was interesting, because she'd become someone worth knowing. When she left that night, I stood in the doorway and watched her walk to her car. She turned back, waved, smiled, and I knew, in that moment, that everything had worked out exactly as it needed to. Not perfectly, not without pain, but honestly, with truth, with consequences that taught instead of destroying. I went back inside, locked the door, poured myself a bourbon, Maker's Mark, my weekly drink. But this time it wasn't about rationing. It wasn't about saving every penny for someone who didn't appreciate it. It was about savoring, about choosing, about enjoying something because I wanted to, not because I could afford to. After everyone else was taken care of, I sat in my living room, in my house, the house I'd built with my own hands, lost through generosity, reclaimed through boundaries. And I thought about the man who'd sat in a truck outside this house 8 months ago. Broken, dismissed, replaced. That man was gone. In his place was someone stronger, someone who'd learned that you can't make people value you. You can only value yourself enough to walk away from those who don't. The house was quiet, empty except for me, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful, like a structure finally resting on a solid foundation. No cracks, no weakness, just strength, just integrity. Outside, the January wind blew cold. Inside, I was warm. I raised my glass. To no one, to everyone, to the man I'd become, to the daughter who'd found her way back, to the ex-wife who'd finally learned to live within her means, to the teacher who'd taught me that boundaries aren't walls, they're definitions of where you end and someone else begins. To building, I said aloud, to breaking, to rebuilding better. I drank, and I was enough. Finally, completely, undeniably enough. Not because anyone told me I was, but because I'd proven it to myself. By standing up, by walking away, by refusing to be diminished, by offering grace without accepting disrespect, by loving my daughter enough to let her fall, by catching her not before she hit the ground, but after, when she was ready to stand on her own. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, made eggs, made plans. I had 3 properties to renovate, a daughter to have dinner with on Thursdays, an ex-wife who was slowly learning to be a person instead of a performance, a life that was mine, small, simple, honest, perfect. I thought about Derek sometimes, wondered where he was, what he was doing, whether he ever thought about the family he'd tried to buy, the daughter he'd tried to replace, the man he'd underestimated. Probably not. People like Derek don't reflect. They move on. Find the next opportunity, the next woman to impress, the next family to infiltrate with charm and empty sophistication. I hoped he was happy. I meant that. Because his happiness or unhappiness had nothing to do with me. He'd played a role in my story, a catalyst, a teacher, in his way. He'd shown Emma what surface looked like, so she could finally appreciate depth. The phone rang. Emma. Dad? Are you busy? Never too busy. What's up? I was thinking about Thanksgiving. I know it's months away, but I wanted to make sure you didn't make other plans. Why? Because I want to cook dinner for you at your house, the way you used to cook for me. I found your recipe box, the one with Mom's handwriting and your notes in the margins. I want to make those dishes. I want to say thank you properly. My throat tightened. You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to. Please? Okay, I said. Yes, I'd like that. Thank you. A pause. Hey, Dad? Yeah? I'm proud to be your daughter. I know I didn't always act like it, but I am. I'm proud of who you are, what you built, how you handled everything. You're the best man I know. I couldn't speak for a moment, just held the phone, let her words settle. Thank you, Emma. That means everything. We hung up. I sat there in my kitchen, in the morning light, in the silence, and I felt it again. That peace, that certainty, that knowledge that I'd done the right thing, the hard thing, the thing that saved us both. I'd stood up from that table 8 months ago and walked away from being taken for granted. And in doing so, I taught my daughter the most important lesson I could give her, that love without respect is worthless, that boundaries are necessary, that dignity is non-negotiable, and that sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is refuse to be a doormat, because children don't need perfect parents. They need honest ones, strong ones, ones who show them what self-respect looks like, so they can learn to respect themselves. I'd given Emma everything, then I'd stopped, and in the stopping, I'd given her something far more valuable than money or comfort or endless forgiveness. I'd given her the truth, the hard truth, the painful truth that makes you better if you're brave enough to face it. And she'd been brave enough. That's all a father can ask. Not perfection, not gratitude, just growth. just honesty, just the willingness to look at yourself and say, I was wrong. I can change. I will change. Emma had done that. And because she had, we were here. Together. Different. Better. I finished my coffee, washed the cup, looked around my house, my home, the place I'd built twice. Once with money and sweat, once with boundaries and self-respect. Both times, it had been worth it. I grabbed my keys, had work to do, properties to fix, lives to rebuild, a future to construct, because that's what I do. I'm an engineer. I build things, strong things, things that last. Things like dignity, like self-worth, like the relationship between a father and daughter who'd almost lost each other, who'd found their way back through pain and truth, and the kind of love that says, I care enough to let you fall, and I'll be here when you're ready to stand. I locked the door behind me, started the truck, drove toward the rest of my life, and I was smiling because I'd learned the secret, the one that took 53 years and a public humiliation to understand. You can't control whether people value you, but you can control whether you tolerate being devalued. You can't make someone love you the way you deserve, but you can refuse to accept less. You can't force gratitude, but you can stop funding ingratitude. And when you do, when you finally stand up and walk away from being diminished, something miraculous happens. The people who truly love you come after you, not because you made them, but because losing you showed them what they had. Emma had come after me, not immediately, not easily, but eventually. And that eventually made all the difference, because love that's earned is worth more than love that's expected. And forgiveness that's built on change is stronger than forgiveness that's built on guilt. I pulled up to the first property, a small house, dated, damaged, full of potential. Just like me 8 months ago. I smiled, got out, grabbed my toolbox. Time to build something beautiful. Again. If you like this story, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to more stories, click on the window on the right. Thank you for being with us.